Ever since humans started forming settlements and civilizations, there's been tension between those in power and those that they have power over. In an ideal world, those in power would put the needs of the masses before their own. There are many such benevolent leaders in history who, despite being kings, despots, dictators, authoritarians, or whatever word happens to be in fashion at the time, truly acted in the best interest of their people. But the issue with an all-powerful leader comes when, seemingly inevitably, they stop looking out for the needs of their people and prioritize their own personal gain. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is a pattern seen throughout history, from ancient Rome and China to Stalin and Hitler. As a leader's lust for power grows, cracks begin to form in the very society that allowed them to rise to power in the first place. Eventually, something's gotta give, but the prospect of standing up against tyranny can be terrifying. Usually, it only happens when a populace has nothing left to lose. But how can one person stand up to such overwhelming power and danger? It's simple. One person alone simply can't. But some of the smallest fish in the sea may just be able to show us how together it becomes quite simple and maybe even fun. Alright, it's more than fair to be asking yourself what fish have to do with social movements. See, fish, and particularly small bait fish like sardines, are a snack for just about everything in the ocean, and are individually tiny and helpless. A single sardine swimming around is quite likely to become a snack for a predator. To deal with their unfortunate place in the ocean food chain, they developed a behavior called schooling, where millions and millions of tiny fish all swim together and coordinate themselves into a huge swarm moving around the ocean. In some ways, this is a bit counterintuitive. A huge school of fish measuring miles across is not exactly discreet and makes the fish an even more obvious target. Nonetheless, natural selection continues to affirm this as their best survival strategy, and you'll see why. First and foremost, schooling fish see a major increase in hydrodynamic efficiency, making their swimming much more energy efficient. As fish at the front of the school swim, they agitate and pull water along, making swimming much easier for the fish behind them. This is the same strategy used by migrating birds flying in a V formation and cyclists within a peloton. Over time, those leading the way grow tired and rotate to the back, allowing others to take the lead, but overall it remains the most energy-efficient method for collective progress. In our own lives, it means that when we move together in a shared direction, it becomes easier for others to come along. Coordination has a multiplicative effect on our efforts. We will all swim farther if we swim together. The second benefit is that it makes it much easier to find a partner because everyone's in the same place, networking and communicating. At first, this might not seem like an important aspect of schooling when trying to draw lessons for social movements, but today, it might be the most important one. Especially among younger generations, social media has diluted our real connections with people. Through all these different platforms, we're connected to tons of people who aren't particularly important or relevant to our lives. Rather than building deeper connections, we're incentivized to collect as many connections as possible, and in doing so, dilute the value of any single one. Over time, I've realized if someone wouldn't pick up or return my call, they're probably not a real friend. Who would be there for you if you really needed a hand? It's certainly not that one random acquaintance you haven't talked to since high school whose story pops up on your feed once in a while. And honestly, a random post from that sort of person has never changed my mind about anything. No one has ever said to themselves, well, Becky from biology class thinks plastic straws should be banned, so maybe I should reconsider. Social media algorithms are designed this way on purpose, because when you feel isolated, you're easier to control. The only way around this is to communicate with the sardines closest to you, your family, your friends, your community. At first, it might seem like a small school of fish, but the magic kicks in quickly. Suddenly, you meet a friend of a friend and their group, and the school grows. As each sardine links up with the ones immediately around them, the entire school becomes a large, locally synchronized, yet broadly decentralized system. Fluid, flexible, and coordinated in pursuit of a common goal. In a time when so many of us feel more alone than ever, it's not a bad time to begin reaching out to the sardines closest to you. And who knows, in building your network, you might just make a new friend or maybe even meet a special someone. The last major benefit, and in practical terms the most important, is the safety that comes from forming part of a larger school. The additional protection comes from what is known as the dilution effect. As millions of sardines school together, it becomes much harder for the faster and stronger predators to single out any one of them. A single sardine is easy to run down and pick off, but when a predator lunges at a large, moving mass, it struggles to focus on a single target, giving all the sardines a much better shot at getting away. As the threat becomes clear, the entire school shifts and reacts as needed to keep the predator confused. It turns out, being in a large school of other sardines is a great way to deal with the fact that everyone out there wants to eat you. So, when times get tough, reach out to the other sardines in your life and form a school. It makes the ocean a much less scary place. To tie this all together, I think it's important to highlight some of the common pitfalls of social resistance to tyranny, and how schooling helps prevent them. First, resistance usually comes too late, largely because of the bystander effect. It's terrifying to put yourself in harm's way, and if you feel like you'll be alone to do so, most people rationally decide against it. But it's much easier to organize early and proactively, rather than out of sheer desperation and necessity. Early organization allows people to think calmly and clearly. This is where schooling or regular networking with the people in your life helps build muscle memory for the moments when the predators actually start circling and real action is necessary. Plus, feeling connected to the people around you helps avoid the bystander effect because you're able to move together calmly, instead of each individual freezing or debating what they should do. The second, and in my view the most important pitfall of major social movements, is the overemphasis and over-reliance on a single charismatic leader like Martin Luther King Jr. or Alexei Navalny. This over-reliance makes the movement far too easy to decapitate. You take out the leader and suddenly the movement loses momentum because no one knows which direction to swim in. And while the movement doesn't usually disappear overnight, it slowly starts to lose direction, purpose, and cohesion. Schooling solves this problem entirely since leadership is localized and decentralized, while still keeping everyone focused on a common goal. Every single sardine is a leader, making their own decisions in coordination with the sardines around them. If one sardine gets picked off, the school doesn't lose direction. In fact, it often tightens up and becomes even more determined. There will always be great leaders within movements, but for a movement itself to truly succeed, every single person must act like a leader, constantly coordinating with the people around them. For better or worse, human society has always been ruled by the biggest and most powerful sharks, and most of us are just sardines trying to make it through another day. And there is nothing sharks love more than a sardine swimming all alone. But real sardines figured out the perfect game plan a long time ago. Stick together, move as one, and survive. We just have to remember that we have more in common with these tiny fish than we may think. And if we swim together, we're not so small after all.